I was working a double-pay holiday shift, money my family needed. My parents, who had always insisted they wanted a closer relationship with their grandchildren. We offered to watch them for Christmas Day so I could finish work. I hesitated. Our relationship had always been strained, but they insisted, promising to make it a special, festive family time. I let them go. When I picked the children up that night, something was wrong. My daughter, Emily, who is 7, was quiet, clutching a small, crinkled roll of toilet paper in her lap as if it were a treasure. My son, 10, handed me a folded note and refused to speak. It read, "Ask your dad why you're not worth it." I went numb. I asked them gently what had happened. Emily mumbled something about a servant's table. My son explained they weren't allowed to open the real presents because those were for the real grandkids. They had watched their cousins unwrap tablets, game consoles, shoes, and bikes. My daughter's name wasn't even on a gift tag. My son said he got the note after he asked why he hadn't received anything. One of the adults had just laughed and said, "Maybe ask your dad." I didn't explode. I didn't call them screaming. I didn't drive over. I didn't even send a text message. I was now certain of something. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't thoughtless. This was a deliberate act of cruelty, with a message intended for me. They wanted to shame me through my children, to punish me for pulling back, for not being the person they wanted, for working, for not being useful to them anymore. But instead of reacting, I became calm and methodical. I started planning something they'd never see coming. This wasn't going to be petty revenge. It was going to be slow, deep, and personal. The strategy. I spent the next 2 weeks reviewing every shared account and the document to which I was still tied. I examined every responsibility I had taken on for them when they didn't want to deal with the consequences of their own life choices. They wanted to send a message. I was going to send one back that they would never forget. My parents had always known how to perform for the outside world at charity auctions, church events, and on social media, where they showed off the grandchildren they barely acknowledged, unless a camera was present. But behind closed doors, they had patterns. Control masked as tradition, guilt framed as generosity, and conditional love wrapped in expensive packaging. They were careless. Years ago, after my father's second medical scare, I had taken over managing many of their financial details: bill, property taxes, and their backup retirement fund, which my mother, Sarah, called the family vault. I was the one who set up the password-protected spreadsheets and online systems. I paid fees from my own accounts to ensure things didn't lapse when they forgot. They leaned on me without ever realizing how much access I had. Or perhaps they thought I would always be the obedient son, quietly handling the adult responsibilities while they handed out insults like candy. Not anymore. The week after Christmas, I began making phone calls, quietly, methodically. The family vault was a modest investment account, set up when my grandmother passed, intended for emergencies only. It was partially in my name for tax reasons, my father's idea. Ironically, "You're good with numbers," he'd said back then. "You'll keep us safe," and I had, until now. I transferred my portion legally and cleanly. The rest of the fund I froze with a pending audit, attaching documentation and noting suspicious activity. I let the system do its work. I didn't have to accuse them of fraud. I just had to raise enough red flags so that every dollar they touched would now come with a question mark and a waiting period. Then I turned my attention to the mortgage. They had refinanced their home 3 years ago, using my credit as a cosigner because my father's wasn't clean and Sarah's income didn't qualify. I had agreed because they said it was temporary. It wasn't, but now I filed the paperwork to remove myself from the note, triggering a reassessment of the loan. Their interest rates spiked. A new lender was required. Papers started rolling in. They didn't know yet, but they would. They'd feel it at first as confusion, then panic. And still, I said nothing. I just made sure every step had documentation. Every legal box was ticked. Every account they had forgotten I had access to was now suddenly out of reach. This wasn't revenge through shouting. This was surgical. The retribution. One day, Emily came into the room and asked, "Daddy, was I bad on Christmas?" I bent down and looked her in the eyes. "No, sweetheart. But some people were." It started with a voicemail. My dad's voice was sharp, a forced calm. "Hey, weird thing. The bank called today. Something about the mortgage file being flagged. Give me a call. We'll sort it out." I didn't call back. 3 days later, another message, this time from my mother. Her voice was shrill and tight. "We got a notice. Why are there papers about a reassessment? This doesn't make sense. Fix it. You're making us look like idiots." No apology. No mention of my kids. Just panicked that someone might think less of them. The next week, it all came to a head. Their monthly loan autopay bounced. I had detached my bank account from it. The system had flagged their application as incomplete, and the interest rate had jumped by nearly 5% due to requalification based on their credit scores alone. They were going to owe thousands more a year, and the new bank was now requiring documentation for everything. That's when the texts started. "We know this is you. This is spiteful. You're destroying the family." I stayed silent, but I kept going. I closed the shared family Amazon account they used regularly, which was billed to my card. I removed myself from the insurance bundle I'd been covering them under. My father's truck and my mother's phone plan now had separate bills at full price. Autopay was gone. They called again. This time I answered, not to argue, just to confirm, yes, I'm making changes. Then I hung up. They thought that would be the worst of it. They didn't realize I'd saved the real blow for last. Because there was one more piece of proof, one they had forgotten even existed. It had taken me weeks to find it. Not because it was hidden, but because they had forgotten the security system I helped install 2 years ago still uploaded backups to my cloud. One camera angle pointed directly at the dining room. I watched the footage alone at night. There they were, my kids, seated at a folding table near the laundry room, next to the trash bins. Paper plates, no decorations, nothing festive. Meanwhile, at the main table, their cousins laughed and unwrapped presents in a storm of expensive packaging. My son tried to smile through it, pushing away tears. My daughter held that small roll of toilet paper as if it might be some kind of joke. Then my sister-in-law walked over and placed the note in front of my son. He read it, and the light in his face dimmed. No one stopped her. No one corrected her. In fact, my father laughed from across the room. That was the moment something in me broke. But now, I had proof. I clipped the footage. I didn't post it online, that would have been too easy, to public. Instead, I emailed it directly to every extended family member who had ever asked why. I seemed distant. To the pastor who always wondered why I skipped family Sundays. To my uncle who ran the church's community newsletter. I didn't add any commentary, just the video, the date, and the note my son had received. The subject line read, "What they gave my children for Christmas." The aftermath. The fallout was nuclear. Phones rang non-stop. People stopped replying to my parents' messages. My cousin pulled out of a joint business venture with my dad. My aunt demanded an apology from them before she would even consider letting them back into family events. The church community started to whisper. Their reputation as the perfect grandparents was gone. That morning I got a call. My mother, Sarah, was lashing out, her voice barely coherent. "What did you do? You're destroying the family." "No," I told her. "They destroyed it when they looked at my kids and saw tools to hurt me. I just made sure everyone saw what they really were. As for my children, this year, they'll have a new Christmas tradition with people who actually love them. No folding chairs, no toilet paper gifts, and no more pretending." And afterward, 3 months later, I didn't think I would be writing again. But a few people asked what happened after everything blew up. The short answer, they're still spiraling. My parents tried to do damage control, claiming the footage was taken out of context and that my kids were just playing a game. Nobody bought it. My uncle told me they'd been quietly blacklisted from family gatherings. Apparently, even their church pulled them from the community Christmas board. My dad texted me last month, "You've turned everyone against us. Congratulations." I didn't reply. There's nothing left to say. As for my kids, they're doing better. Emily finally stopped asking why her grandparents hated her. My son is in therapy, and it's helping. We spent our own little Christmas together, just the 3 of us. I gave them what they truly deserved: time, attention, and gifts chosen with love. And you know what? They smiled. Really smiled. That's the part I'll carry with me. Not the revenge, not the anger, just the look on their faces when they finally felt safe, loved, and enough, as they always should have.